Transistor. So let me just show you what I'm going to use as an example. I'm going to use as an example a podcast I'm already subscribed to. All right, so Mike Herrera, who is in a band called MXPX, him and I have gotten to know each other, and he has a podcast that I've been on that's great. It's called the Mike Herrera Podcast. It's currently hosted on Libsyn, and I just wanted to show you what it would be like to transfer this podcast from Libsyn to Transistor. And by the way, if you have comments or anything else, just put them in the chat. I can respond to those there. I just want to make sure this is actually all running here. All right. Hopefully this has made it through to YouTube. Okay, so one of the reasons you might want to switch your podcast from, say, Libsyn to Transistor is this is the website that Libsyn gives you. And it just hasn't been updated in a really long time. And so, especially now with Google Podcasts, they're indexing podcasts, but the way that they do that is through your website. And, still, if people are trying to figure out, like what's the MXPX podcast, they'll search on Google for what is it, and this is the web address that comes up. So they're going to see this first. This is going to be their first impression of your show, and I think we can do better than this. So that's one reason you might want to switch. There's tons of other reasons. As a comparison, I can show you another. For example, here's a website built on Transistor's basic website template. We've got a player right here. I can bring this up for you. And this will keep playing as you navigate around the site. You can see all the episodes. You can have a nice page for people to subscribe. And so, as you can see, there's a pretty big difference between this and this. We want to get something like this going. So, I can show you a few other examples too. Here's another podcast website built on Transistor. Right? So it's a basic website template, but it can look really great. I like this one too. If you know some custom CSS, you can really customize the site quite a bit and just make it look really nice. So here's all you have to do if you want to transition your. Here's what you have to do if you want to migrate from Libsyn or Simplecast or Podbean to Transistor. It's super easy. You're going to grab your feed. So the RSS feed is way down here. You can copy the link. You're going to go into Transistor. You're going to add a new show. And if you've got the RSS feed, you can paste that in here. But if you've got if you're already on Apple Podcasts, you can just search for the show and select it here. All right? So I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'm going to select this, and start importing it. And eventually it's going to show up here with all of my episodes and everything. It imports everything for you, your show settings, cover art, etc. So and if you have a lot of episodes, it can take a while. So I actually, before we started, I started importing this. So now we have it right here. And by the way, this isn't switching Mike's podcast This isn't switching Mike's podcast to Transistor. This is just an example. He's still on Libsyn. So here is his podcast on Transistor. We were able to import his episodes here. For some reason, Apple Podcasts is only showing his most recent 99 episodes. And so if we were going to transition him, we'd probably use the RSS feed instead of Apple Podcasts. But yeah, we've got the episodes here. One thing that we might have to edit is that for whatever reason, Libsyn puts HTML in the summary. I don't know why they do that. Like right in the feed too. Your show notes should be formatted this way. So your episode summary is this section that goes right here in Apple Podcasts, and then your full show notes down here is what appears right here. So this should be just be one little line, a little teaser of what your show is going to be about. So I'm just going to grab this and then save that. And in this case, because it's grabbed all of this HTML, I might have to do this for a few of these just to make it look reasonable, right? But that can happen later. Right now, what I want to focus on is just showing you the episodes are all here, and your show settings were also imported. So here's the title, here's the description of the podcast. It automatically grabbed the category, the secondary category, the author, all that stuff. And the cover art. Now, one thing I noticed about Mike's podcast is that if you validate the feed using a podcast feed validator, everything looks good except for the cover art. The cover art is 3,000 pixels by 3,000 pixels, which is great. It's supposed to be between 1,400 and 3,000. But the image needs to be smaller than 512 kilobytes, which is really tricky to get an image that's that big. Like here's the full-size image. Like this is a really detailed image, and to get one that's that big down to less than 512 kilobytes, really hard. So I had to optimize this like crazy. This was not easy to figure it out. I went into Sketch and I exported it at a bunch of. Basically, what I do is I'll export it and then I was bringing the quality down to 10%, and I still couldn't get it below 512 kilobytes. I tried to get Tiny PNG to shrink it down. So his original file is almost 6 megabytes, which is, again, way too big. And it wasn't until I opened that JPEG in an old copy of Fireworks and reduced it to 2,500 pixels wide and about 50% in terms of quality that I was able to get it down below 512 kilobytes. And we can compare those two. So here is the original. Where's the original here? Here's the original. All right. We'll do a side-by-side comparison. And here is the version that will actually work with Apple Podcasts. It's pretty good. I think we did a good job here. You can't really tell. There's no artifacts or anything. So that's the first thing I'm going to do now that I've imported his show, is I'm going to update this cover art so that it's below that 512 kilobytes. So let's choose this one here. We're just going to replace that. There we go. We'll save that. All right. So now we've got an image that works. And what I really want to do now is show you what his website could look like if it was on Transistor. So let's go over here to website, and let's just put Justin Demo 2, and we'll start with the blank canvas, and we'll kind of go from there. Actually, maybe first we will, I think we need to figure out if we want to have this, what kind of logo we want to have here. Let's just upload the cover art as the logo first. Okay, so we're going to save that. And let's just grab this URL so you can see what it looks like as we're going here. So already, I think we've improved on how this is looking. Here's the old one, and on how this is looking. Here is the new one that we just generated. But I think we can even get better than this. So the first thing we'll do is I'm just gonna grab this. This is kind of his description of the show. I'm gonna put that down in the About page. Now I know our website builder is actually still really basic. There's lots of things that need to be improved on it, but I think I think you can customize it and make it look really, really good. So I'll do my best to show what it can do here. And for the intro text here, I think what's important is that we show, Mike Herrera, frontman for the band MXPX, sits down with a new guest every week discussing everything from music to careers to news. Okay, so that's going to be the new intro. So I'm just going to save that. And let's take a look at that. All right. So now this is looking pretty good. At this point, we could try a few things. We could try making the background that yellow and see how that looks. We could make the background of this that yellow if we wanted to. He's kind of got this dark black here and then this yellow. And again, this might be where it, there's definitely going to be some experimentation here. Actually, before we get to that, I just want to show you how we can add his social links to different places. So I'm going to copy his Twitter username is Mike Herrera TD. Mike Herrera TD. I know he's got a Facebook page and a YouTube page, but I'll just keep these like this for now. So we'll just save that. And I think the other thing that's weird about these Libsyn pages is there's no play button. I don't even know that this is a podcast, really. There's also nowhere easy for me to subscribe that I can see. I don't know how that works. But I can show you my Carrera podcast. If we found his, so here's his Spotify link. We could add that pretty easy, right? So let's go over here. There's a Spotify URL. And let's see if we can find a few more just to, so here's the show on Apple. So I'm just going to put that in there. And we'll put one more. It looks like it's on Stitcher. Now, if he was going to transition the show over to Transistor, for example, we would need to log into Apple Podcast Connect and update the feed URL. It's really easy to do. I can show you how to do that too, but first let me just show you what this looks like. So we'll refresh the page, and then down here now we've got his Twitter and Instagram links. And then if we go to the subscribe page, RSS, listen on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, and Spotify. Pretty nice, hey? And so if he was using a custom domain like mxpxpodcast.com/subscribe, he could link people right there. Pretty good for getting new listeners. So I mentioned Apple Podcast Connect. Apple Podcast Connect. That is, see, this is, yeah, here. That's this right here. So I'm just going to log in, and then I'll show you what this page looks like. Oh, I gotta verify here. Okay. Just give me 1 second here. I want to bring everything up at the right place. All right. So when you log into Apple Podcasts, this is what it looks like. It lists all your shows. And if you're moving to a new podcast host, all you have to do is click into your show, and then you would add your new RSS feed in here. All right? And then after you update Apple Podcasts, what I would do is go back into your old podcast account. I can show you how we do this. See if I can still. So here's my old podcast account on Simplecast. So when I moved from Simplecast to Transistor, all I did was updated Apple Podcasts. That was the first step. And the second step is just to go into podcast settings, go down to the bottom, and RSS feed redirect. So I'm going to redirect from my old podcast feed to my new podcast feed on Transistor. And really, all of the podcast apps should take care of it from there. They'll eventually update. I think the only other one you might need to manually update is Google Play and Spotify. But those are both things we can help you with. And you can see we also have all of the episodes here. Like I said, we might have to clean some of this up, but these are all playing, right? And this will continue to play as I navigate around the site. It's pretty good.
What's up, you guys? How's
I can
it
even
going?
speed it
I'm
up
back.
if I want.
It's solid. Thank you so much. Thanks for tuning in. MXPX shows Friday, June 14th, coming up really quickly. Montebello Rock, Montebello, Quebec.
So, yeah, that's basically it. And like I said, from here we could customize everything if we wanted to. If I want to make the background color of this yellow, I could do that. You can even add custom CSS. So I could go background, color. So if you're a web developer, you can customize a lot of stuff on this page, like I showed you before. So we could put it all yellow, and you know, that almost looks good, just like that, just like that. If we want to make, we could make these, you know, maybe stick out a little bit more. So I've got some CSS that I use for some of that. Let's see. Let's center the intro text. So this text right here, let's center that, and let's make these subscribe buttons white. All right, so I'm going to save that. If we go back in here, bam, now these really pop. And if we go here, this is all centered now. If we want, right now this bottom player is kind of the same color as this middle section, and we might want to, maybe we want it to be, you know, a little bit different. So we could use, I'm just going to get my color picker here. We could use this gray if we wanted to, and we could make that the color of the player on the bottom. Just going to, where is that? It's the footer here, yeah. Save that. And now if we refresh it, now we've got that gray player, so it kind of sticks out. You can see the difference between this right here and, but we've got all of the different colors from his logo here. Trying to think of what else I can show you here. I think that's a pretty good demo. So yeah, and if I go back, you know, I can host multiple podcasts on one account, all for one price. That's another difference between us and other podcast providers. Multiple shows, all on one account, and you know, as your podcast gets more, the only thing we can't transfer actually is the analytics, right? So you'll have to start regenerating those. But I think one thing we do really well is we show you your average downloads per episode for the first 7 days, all the way up to first 90. We estimate how many subscribers you have. We show you, so this is where I imported my show. We show you how many downloads you've had each month. So I could say, you know, for the past 90 days, how many downloads did I get? Shows you each month how we're doing there. It'll show you, again, here's where I imported the show. How many downloads are you getting for all these episodes? And I could even go back and see, okay, well, how many of these episodes in my back catalog are still getting downloads? And you can see a lot of them are. Plus, where are people listening? So Apple Podcasts, desktop browser, Overcast, iTunes, Pocket Casts, and then